So what's the agenda for today? Okay. So for today, what we have to do is we'll just do a quick overview of some things that you can do in pandas, and then I guess both of you have been like doing the assignment, so you already know how to scrape the websites and like put the data together. So let's just see how do we put things, like how do we work with the data once we have it in pandas, right? So the first thing is, this is the most common thing. You first import pandas as PT, and then how do you, for example, how do you set up a data frame, right? So generally, like this is a variable name. This is the most common variable name, D is standing for data frame, but you can obviously use whatever you like. And then there is this thing called pt dot data frame, right? So here, if you see, you can define what the data is or not. It's completely up to you, right? So what are the ways in which we can define data frames? Okay, so like what I just did was the question mark help file thing of data frame, and there you go. You get the syntax, and now it tells you what sort of structure it contains: labeled access, arithmetic operation, blah blah blah. How all can we install? So this is a dictionary by and large, right? For data frame, dictionary can contain series, arrays, constants, or list-like objects. So what this means is, do you guys remember last time we were doing last time when we scraped these tables? Maybe one of these tables would be here, right? Type tables. It's a list. And what is tables 0? These tables are from Helvin's code. So it's this table, right? In which so we had extracted these 4 columns, right? And then how do we access one particular column? Do you remember? So like here we printed all 4 columns, right? And it was the full table. So if you want to just see one column, how do we see it? Take a guess. Like normally, if there is a list and you want to see one particular element of a list, so like tables is a list, right? Which has 4 tables inside of it. And we wanted the first table, so we type table 0. So how do we find one particular column? Sorry, what?
After that, we have to write column name in square bracket after table 0, then square bracket, and then column name.
Like this?
And then column name.
Is that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think so.
Get an error. So that's almost right. The only thing you have to remember is do this. So if your column name is something like this, you have to do NFHS 5, right? Like you have to put it in brackets and then you get it. So this is our column. Remember? Now, our issue was that, okay, we have this column, but this column is like 3 columns merged into one, and space is the delimiting sort of factor. And then we have to clean that. By cleaning, I mean we have to split it, right? So what did we do? What function? It was, I think, str.split. right? And if we see, we again get a single column, right? It's just one column. And if you want to see, what you can do is you can do str.split, and then you can look at what is its type. So it's a series. And what is a series? A series is essentially a list. It's just an ordered list. What do I mean when I say ordered list? You see these numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are indexes. If we just have a list, so for example, if this is a list, A is equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And if you print out A, it just gives you a list, right? Like this. When we are printing this thing, this also looks like very much like a list, what we are getting from this particular command, but that list has these indexes, 0, 1, 2, 3. And that is what distinguishes list from a series, right? A series is it's sort of like a column. It's a single column. You can say like, so a data frame is then composed of multiple series, right? You have got multiple columns, and then each column is a series in itself. Does that make sense? Yes, no?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So that is what we have now. And what can a series contain? A series can have whatever you want. Like earlier, one object of the series was this, right? Let's actually see what are we doing. So first we have this. So we have this table 0 NFHS, which is this. This is also a series, right? It's a single element that we have derived. And what was the whole thing? So the whole thing is a data frame, right? So the distinction is clear between what is a data frame and what is a series. A data frame is the complete set of like data. You can even have a single series in a data frame, but a data frame will have to be like a full data set. And then if you're extracting one particular column out of that data frame, then that becomes a series, right? So that is what we have here. So this is a series. Now let's see what one object of that series is. So if I want to just extract one object, how do we do it? Like, let's say I just want the first, so this is the first, this is the column NFHS5. And now let's say we want the first element of it. How do we, any guesses? How will we get the first element? So what I mean is, yeah.
From the index,
From the
we have
index.
to write. Yes.
Like that?
Yes. Yes.
That's exactly right. You do that, and if we do, what will happen if we do this?
From 0 to 9, it will show from 0 to 9 range.
Exactly. So we get the entire range. And if we get the range, again, if we want to select what type is this thing, it's again a series, right? And what is a single element? Any guesses? What will be this? What will we get now? So when we just printed the 0, we got this 2019-20, which was enclosed in brackets. What will this command give us? Like, what is the type of that thing?
String.
Right, exactly. It's a string, right? And what about this? Sorry. What will this give us?
Int, I think integer.
Int. So let's first view what that is, right? And then let's see. So it is this. Let me make it little more clear. It is this. Now can you tell me?
Yes, it's a list.
It's a list. Let's see if it is a list. It is. So the point of showing this was that this can be, so a series or like one column can contain whatever you want. So in this case, the column does not have, like the column does have data, but the data is in list form. So you can store lists within that column. And then, yeah, and then like if you don't want, you can just have a single thing going. Cool. So that it's just to illustrate that you can have whatever you want in like a list, and that should be fine. Okay. Let me try out something else. What will this do? If anything at all, or will it give an error?
No idea.
It will split the urban rural total, I believe.
Sorry. Sorry about that. Yes. So let me come back. Yes, Japanese. What were you saying?
It will split the urban, rural, and total into 3 columns, I believe.
Okay, let's see if it does that. It gave us an error. Now, the reason it gave us an error is because this function applies to a series object. This function is not, your intuition was correct. Your intuition was that we want, so what is this element? This element is urban rural total. So when we apply string dot split to it, what should happen is it should, split it into 3 parts. But that's not what we get. And the reason we don't get it is because this function that we are using, what does it do? It applies to a full series. It is not a string based function, right? It is applying to a full series. What if I try this? What will happen now? Guesses. So earlier we had dot string dot split, and now we are just doing dot split. What do you think will happen? Give it a try. Come on. Okay. No takers. Now what Japneet was saying happens. See? So what did I do? So now let's understand what this function actually is doing and like how is it doing it. So split is a function, right? So these are all our names. So these are all our names, right? And it's a string function. Now if we see what split can do, it's this function. It returns a list of the words in the string using separator as the delimiter string. You remember, like towards the starting of the class, we were doing this assignment in which you were supposed to count letters, and then I gave a follow-up assignment which was like, okay, now count words. So the one way that you can do this is like here.
Online pamphlet na online pamphlet. Registration fees.
Okay. So do you guys follow what the split will do? So let me try this out. So you know what A is. What will this do? Hello.
Okay. It will show as a name, Japneet, Deepak, Helvin separately.
Separately in a list?
It's a list.
Or whether it will
yes.
just separately print them?
Separately print them, not list.
It is a list, right? You see? So it's a list and it has that space also if you take. So because I had a space here after each name. So this is one name, and this is the second name, and this is the third name, this is the fourth name, and this is like the first name. So Japanese doesn't have a space before it, so no space here. You follow? So split is a string function. So split is a function of the library string. So if something is string, and if you take that string and if you apply a split to it, what it does is this. Right? Following?
Yes.
And what we do here then, so what were we doing here? We were saying tables 0, the first table. Now we are taking this column NFHS 5 from it. And now what we are telling Python is that this column use the function split. So use the function split from the library string str, right? And apply, and you're doing this to this particular thing, right? And you operate it on this whole all elements of this column. And the way to do this is this, right? You just apply it there and then it will work. That's how this is running. Now I want to actually try something out just to see. I'm not sure if this will work or not. Let's see if it does. Okay. So the error that we're getting is it doesn't apply to a float also. So forget what I was trying to do. It doesn't work like that because of this problem, the empty spaces. Okay, so now is the command clear what this command was doing? So this is calling on this function string dot. Why is it string dot split? Because you need a string first, and then you apply the split function to that string. So like here, when we call this function before, we did a dot split, right? And we got this. So a was that string. That is how Python works, right? Like if this is a string, so you're calling the function on that string. If you just do split, it doesn't know what function you're talking about, because now it thinks that you're using this. So what is this thing? This whole thing is a column, which is a series. And the error is attribute error. So series has no attribute split. what that means is that this series that you're using, it doesn't, split is not contained in that library. Where split is contained is in the string library. So you need to invoke the string library, and then you need to apply split to that. Make sense? Nod, thumbs up, whatever, like it does.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
Any questions?
yes. But it will only split the index which we will give, not all series.
No, exactly. So like it'll only split NFHS5, right? And if you want to do multiple, then you can try multiple. I'm not sure what's like the best way to do it, but let's see. So for that, we'll first have to see. Okay. Series 1 is equals to tables 0 NFHS 5. Let's me do this. So we created a new data set, which is just this with the first series, right? And let me see NFHS. Okay. So did you see what I just did? Let's go one by one. The first thing I did was I extracted that column and I stored it in series 1 because it's a type of a series. So we just extracted that from here and we stored it here, right? Okay. And the next thing we do is we initialize the data frame df and we tell that the data is in this series. So by doing this, we have created the data frame df and with a single column NFHS5, right? And what do I do here? Here, I'm initializing a new column. I'm adding a new column to this table, which is df NFHS, and I'm assigning the same values again. So I'm basically duplicating the column. I've created two columns, NFHS5 and NFHS, right? So like one cool thing that you can do when you have column names like that is this. Just dataframe.nfhs. So dataframe.column name. And again, like for this, your column name should not have any special characters like this or space or other stuff. So it's a good practice to have column names which are like simple, which look like variable names, which you would assign like variable names, right? So the same rules for variable names apply for these names, and then you can just use it like that. So this is like intuitive to me. I'm not sure about you, but what this is telling me is find me NFHS from. So every time I see a dot, I read it as from, and I read it right to left. So NFHS from data frame, keys from data frame, and keys from data frame. So as the name suggests, keys should be something like a column title or something, and which is what we get. So these are the two column titles that we have. And now to why I was doing all of this, just to see whether we can answer what Deepak was asking. How do we select multiple columns? This is the way. So this is a way to select multiple columns. I'm sorry, like, so this lectures or like this session would more or less be like this. It will be just hands-on stuff. So because we're trying to just understand how to navigate pandas, right? So this is a way to extract multiple columns. So for single column, you remember we don't put this. For single column, you can either use something like this, which is df.nfhs, or you can do something like this, even if you would have written just this, you would have gotten the first, the column NFHS, right? So you square brackets and then you provide the index. Now what are we doing in this column? Let's break this column down. So we are getting into data frame and we are passing it a list of column names. So you pass a list of column names and you tell Python, okay, these are the column names that I want. You cannot do this, because what will happen if you do this? Let's like just guess. I mean, I already told you that there will be an error, but why will there be an error? What does this command mean to Python? Take any random guess, it's fine.
Isn't it like, I maybe I'm confusing this with R, but wouldn't this mean row NFHS and column NFHS 5?
So first we get a key error, which is, so basically if your intuition is that this is row and column, this should work, or the opposite, right?
Yeah, the opposite.
So maybe this will work.
Okay.
Neither works. And the reason it doesn't work is because when we pass this thing, so like when we did this, then it gave us everything. So what that means is this argument is the key which Python will look in its data, in the data frame, and then it will return you that. So when we do this, Python is looking for this key. This is the name of the key. And you can have something like that as the name of your key. So if you're, Python is looking for a column name, which looks like this.
Okay.
So to tell Python that, okay, this is not a column name, we want two different columns, you pass it as a list. So if Python detects a list here, it is like, okay, now this list will contain all the columns that I need to pull out. And then Python pulls out those column names. What will this be? So what's the type of what is being pulled out? Now we're pulling out two columns. We know that this will pull out two columns. So one column was a series. What are two columns?
Data frame.
Exactly. One column is a series, two columns is a data frame, right? But one column can also be a data frame. But here it's like, so two columns make a data frame. One column was a series, right? Cool. So that was like a quick segue, and I think like this is a good time to maybe think about this. What is happening? Very interesting. It's pulling out all my previous commands for some reason. So what did we just get? So data frame has two keys, NFHS 5 and NFHS. Now it will be difficult because both of them are the same, right? So let's go back to table 0, because that has like multiple keys, right? And table 0, so dot I location, and this is just, so you can read this by location by I location, right? And 0, 1. What is this? It's 2019 20. And what is 0, 2? It is blank. Let's do 1, 2. Oops. And let's look at data frame once. Sorry, not data frame, table 0. So this is table 0. And I'm trying to do something that Arushi kind of started at, which was like how, like in R, when you pass two indexes as commas, you get like that particular thing, right? So here, this is the index, and these are some names. So first index, indicators. And what is indicators? It is this element. So now can you tell me what do both of these numbers stand for? Let me show you one more thing, and then maybe 0, 1 give us 20, 19, 20. So this doesn't have that, but 1, 2, 4, right? 20, 15, 16, 0, 3. 0, 3 gave us this, 20, 15, 16. 0, 0 gave us indicators. So what do these two indexes stand for? This one and this one.
Row and column.
Yes, exactly. So the first index is basically this index that you have, which is the row. And the second index stands for whatever your column number is. So here now we have a column number and we don't have column name. So if we want to access an element by its relative position in the table, this is how you do it. You use iLocation, right? And we can just read about it. Oops, it's not found. That is strange. Okay, never mind. What you can always do is just Google it, right? Like, and you will learn what the thing is. Let's try it out actually. iLook versus LOC pandas. We need to increase. So there's this first command, difference between location and iLoc. Is this legible to all of you? Going to assume you can see this. So they create a data frame, they're displaying this data. Now location is label-based data selecting method, which means that we have to pass the name of the row or column which we want to select. This method includes the last element of the range passed. Location can accept the Boolean return like that. Okay. Sorry, that was. So I don't know how much of that were you guys able to read, but just going to try this out. Maybe this. So, sorry, it's been some time I tried the location command, but just got reminded. That should work, right? Yeah, maybe this.
Prankur, is NFHS is table 0 a data frame? Like, would .lock work on it? Because we
Yeah,
had,
table 0 is a data frame, no?
wasn't it a, oh, sorry, I'm confused.
I think it's a data frame. Yeah.
Oh, okay, we'd already passed it. Okay.
So maybe this will, I don't know. It is weird. Takes from 1 to 2 positional arguments, but 3 were given. And then I'm passing 3 arguments. Sorry, guys, system alert. Oh, my bad. Okay, I get it. Sorry. Okay. 2 questions. First, what was my error? Like, why was I getting an error? So this is the command that worked, and this is the command that we were trying before that. And we were getting an error. This was the command. Spot the difference. And then like, because that will also help us understand like what these brackets mean. And we discussed this once before, right? Like what do these brackets mean and how do we use them? Or when do we use them? So the difference is that this has these square brackets, right? And now this has these curly brackets. So this is the equivalent of what Arushi was talking about, right? You pass, this is row, comma, column. And here you can index the column by its name. And here you're just passing that, right? Does that make sense? So this is like one way of accessing elements. So this is the first element of NFHS 5. If you want to, and what were these brackets doing? So this becomes a function. I forgot. So this is curly brackets indicate function, right? So it's a function that will tell you what to take. So here, even when we did I location, we did not use curly bracket. We did not use those normal brackets, right? We use square brackets because ilog and log, LOC and ilog, both are like ilog is I location, which is location based indexing. So I stands for indexing and LOC is location. And then just LOC is location. Okay. So this is from location, and how can we refer to a location? So this is the column, this is the row, and this is the column, and you can refer it however you want. Here we are referring it by name, and here we are just like passing the index of the row, right? But this is not a function, it's like a list. So if we want to access an element of a list, so if we had a list of names, we would type this, right? Or we type this. This is how we access elements of a list. If we type this, then suddenly we are calling upon a function by the name of names. So every time you use these kinds of brackets, what it means is you're using a function, right? That's sort of what we have. Anyhow, so let's move on. So now we covered how to. Create new columns, and then we also covered how to like access elements, right? So there are 2 ways of accessing elements. One is this location-based accessing, in which you can pass on the column name, and then the other is index-based accessing, right? So one is this, and the exact same thing would be accomplished by doing what? So NFHS 5 was the second column, I believe. Was the first one? Yes, it was the first one. Okay. So this and this command are identical because the second column, and by second the index would be 1 because it's the second column, is NFHS5, right? So these are the two ways of accessing the elements. Make sense? Any questions? None? Okay. Now, let's quickly just view our column again. Now, this is the entire column. Now, let's say if we want to see, let's first split this. Okay. So what did we do last time? We provided 3 elements, right? So urban, rural, total is equals to df dot nfhs dot. Now we want to split it, so we do this command, and then last time we did this expand is equals to true. If we don't pass it, then we'll just get a list, but now we will get 3 columns. Let's quickly look at what df looks like. So it has NFHS5, which is the original one, then it has NFHS, which is a copy, and then it has got urban, rural, total, the split types, right? Like that. So this is the first column NFHS5, this is the second column NFHS, and the third column urban, rural, total. In questions of that, we did this the last time, right? Okay, so now my question to you is, now this is showing us all the rows, right? We look at this, we are getting all of the rows, the entire data set, which is 46 rows. Now let's say I only want to see rows for which urban is greater than 50. How do we do that? Any guesses? So we know that one way to access urban is by using this location-based command, and by saying, okay, I want the second row in the column urban, right? And then I will get 92.1, which if you verify is 92.1, right? So that's one way. Then if we want okay, so let me ask you this. So now this is one way to get multiple. Now let's say if I want rows 2 through 5. So I want 2, 3, 4 rows, right? 2, 3, 4, and 5. What should we do? This is just giving us one particular cell in Excel language. So like one value. Now if we want 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we want these values, we want 92.1, 22.1, 980, 949. Let's say these 4 values, 1, 2, 3, 4. How do we get them? Take a guess. Remember, we were talking about how do you get multiple columns earlier, right? From a data frame. The same logic will apply. How will you get multiple of these? Yeah,
we have to write 2:6.
Like this?
Yes.
That is exactly right. So now you can use that. You apply 2:6 and then you get this. Cool. So that's a way to get multiple elements. But notice here that when you do 2:6, you get all of the elements. Right? Earlier in list, when we were talking about this, we said that when you apply a colon, the last element is you don't get. So you will get only 6 minus 2, 4 elements. But here we get all 5. So it is inclusive. So that is one thing that you should remember. That in this location command, if you're using colon, and if you're extracting a subset, you will get both inclusive. So 2 is also here and 6 is also here. And that's what we get. Okay, now for the next question, how do we get just the values that are greater than 50? One way is you can manually figure out, okay, which ones are which, right? And and another way is, let me ask you this. So now we have 6 elements, right? And if I do this, There is no key 0 obviously because it is returning. Why did I get an? Let me actually ask you. Why did I get an error? Why did it not just show me like this element? Because this is the 0th element or blah blah. So why did I get an error when I passed 1? And it says 1 is not in range. So that's a hint. But 1 should be in range, like we know that 1 is the index and it should be in range.
It's starting from 2 index 2, so that's why I think.
Okay. Will this work?
Yes, it should work.
Yes, it does. So what you need to understand here is that whenever we pass these elements, no, this is not the index as we understand index from list. This is this index. Or essentially, this is the row name. So Python automatically assigns row names in the index. So here it has assigned these row names, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. And it is that row name that you're passing. And you're not passing the index name, right? So that's just something to be careful about whenever you're working. That when you're trying to access the first element, is the index the same? So like, for example, if you sort this array in some sense, then will this change value? Like, let me just do df dot urban dot sort. Oh, series doesn't sort, sorry. df dot sort by equals to urban. Yeah. Keep forgetting, man. Sorry about this. We'll talk about sort later. You can look this up, but okay. So that was my point. That the third element, right? And the thing I was asking you guys before that was, so here we got 2 through 6. Now, if we just want rows which have greater than 50, let's say, for example, that's a condition that we want to sort it on. And how do we do this? So df dot urban greater than 50. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a string. So you get that. But you also get 9.1, 9.3, 8.9. The reason why this is happening is we are comparing a string. So this column is not a number right now in Python's language, it is a string. Because we split a string to get these numbers. So we need to first convert these into a number data set if you want to work with it like that. So let's look that up very quickly. Convert string column to integer pandas. How to convert string to integer in pandas data frame? So there is this command as type int. Right? Okay. So first to tell you what the problem was, df.urban to this is 92.1, but you notice these. So this is a string. This is not yet an int. But let's go on. Whoever has a question. No question. Just, okay. You're muted back. Sorry. What is going on? Sorry. again. So why are we getting this error? Because of this. So if we look at this, all of these are numbers except for this, right? So this 20, 19, 20 is not a number. Do we want that to be there? Not really, right? So now let's fix that value. So this value is not string and we want to change this. So we want to change this value to, let's say, something that is missing. How do we do that? We can put a 0 there, we can put an and there, we can do whatever. But how do we change that? So we know how to access it, right? If you do df.urban urban 0, you'll get that. How do we change this? What will happen when I do this? Guesses?
Yeah, it will assign 0.
It assigns 0. So this fixes our issue that we were getting. What? So we also have this problem that one is urban, or yeah, we got two issues, right? The first position also we have this issue. Now it will work. Still doesn't work. Okay, this is okay, guys. I finally managed to do this. Now we are getting into it. Okay. So what was, like, just to recap, what happened? So first, now let's do the same thing on rural. So we have this rural function, right? But the thing is that the elements of this function are string. So how many here know stata? Anyone? Okay. So when you have data and if it is in string format, you cannot do operations on it, right? Like you cannot do multiplications, you cannot run regressions, you cannot do anything like that. So what you will first have to do is you will first have to convert it into a number format. And how do you do it? So there is this simple command which is .as type, right? So rural .as type, and then you can do whatever you want. But so the first thing that we were trying to convert it into int, which, okay, now tell me, why did int not work and why did I have to switch to float? That is like my first question. And then we'll talk about the next one. Like, remember here, I was trying it out and I tried float and it worked. It gave me an answer. But when I was trying out int, I was getting an error. And the error I was getting was invalid literal for int with base 10, 92.1. So it was telling me that it cannot convert this 92.1 into int with base 10. So that is the error. So we are also like trying to read errors today a little bit so we know what is going on. So what happened? Why did it not work? Okay, first of all, let me pause. Is this, like, I know this is a little haphazard, but are you guys following what's happening? Or like, should we like, so any questions? Let me just ask that first. Do you guys have any questions on what's going on? What are we trying to do? Why are we doing this? Anything?
I want to ask that if we write df.urban.as type float bracket 1. That means it's changing its type for only that particular object.
No. So this is changing. So let's go step by step, right? So this is the first data frame. Now we are getting the urban column from it, and we are converting the entire column as type float. So we convert the entire column into float, and then we are accessing the first element of that series. That is what we're doing.
Okay.
Okay. Right. Any other questions? Japni? Anything that doesn't make sense or is confusing? Helvin?
No, everything is all right now.
Okay, so now since I called upon you, tell me, why did int not work? Like, what does this error mean? Take a guess.
Maybe because the elements in it are in float instead of say just 1, 2, and 3. Because
Yeah, exactly. So they are not. So when we say int is integer, right? These are not integer elements. So what was the error that we were getting before this? So the error we were getting before this was like this. Because urban is obviously not an integer, it is a string and it cannot convert. But if our data set has too many of these, we cannot manually inspect them, like, and we cannot do one by one. So let's see if there is a way. Convert string to int, ignoring strings. Okay. So is there a way? I don't know if there is a way. I have not had to encounter this. So errors will be raised on converting invalid data type. For example, dig to string, raise will raise the error and ignore will pass without raising the error, right? So there is this option ignore that you can pass. We can also just try to look at the help of this function, right? Like this. This is the help of the as type function. It shows us a lot of options. Here it is. So this, the first thing is data type where we're talking. And now you can pass this. So if it is a string, it is raising. Errors, it will raise, right? What can we do? So df.urban.asType float gives us an error, right? Or it doesn't, because we converted, because we have already corrected for it, so it doesn't give us an error. But rural will give us an error, right? We haven't corrected rural. This gives us an error. Now, if we say str is equals to ignore, will this work? Oops, invalid syntax. So let's just read what the syntax was again. Dot as type. Okay. So what's the syntax for ignoring, strings? So errors, and then you pass a dictionary. Controls raising of exceptions on invalid data for providing data type. Let's see an example if they have done it. So the entire data frame also you can convert by passing dictionaries, right? And what are we passing in dictionary? The column name to whatever type. Let's see if they have shown. Okay, so they haven't shown how to do it, but we can again take a guess. Okay. Are you guys also trying this out simultaneously? Oof. Sorry. We should have looked this up. Okay. We'll get back to you on what do you say, Piazza, about how to write this command. But it's just to show you that it does work in a sense, like there is this command which you can use to sort of force set whatever we want, right? And then we can work that. Oh, Elvin dropped out. Okay. But that is, so once you convert it, what were we trying to do? We were trying to this was the full data set, right? And we wanted columns in urban which have a value of greater than 50, right? And how do we do this? So df dot urban, sorry, df dot location, and then df dot urban greater than 50, comma, urban. Right? Cool. So when we did this, we got only the values which are greater than 50. So that's how conditional sort of extraction works. And if you want a few values and not the entire thing, then then this is how we can pass that value. But what is df.urban/50, right? Oh, sorry, greater than 50. So if we just look at this thing, it is essentially comparing each element and it's returning false or true. See this? So true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. That is what it is giving us. So that is to say that this command and this over here, so this will have a list which will have true, false, true, false, true, false. And wherever it will be true, it will just show you that value. And that also so this is what we call a mask, right? And what is a mask? It's like a filter. So in Excel, when you go and you can apply filters, right? Like it should be equal to 4, it should be equal to 5. This is exactly like that. It will help you do this. And what's the use of this? So once you, for example, let's say if you want to see the values for rural for which urban is greater than 50, right? So it's a data set. So if urban is greater than 50, show me the values for rural. There you go. So these are the, how do we know it's the same values? Look at the index, 46, 33, and 46 was true, and then 33 was true, right? So this will help you to do conditional changes. What do I mean by that? So this is our entire data frame, right? And now if you want to, let's say, multiply the values of rural by 100, wherever urban is greater than 50. So how will you do it? So originally we were doing this, right? df.rural, and then we said the value of 0 should be set equal to 0, and then that changed it. Now if we want to change the values where urban is greater than 50 equals to 0, this will help us do it. We'll talk about why there's this warning, but let's look at what the data frame looks like. You see, all of these values have changed to 0. Because here, urban is greater than 50. So you change the value to 0. It's less than 50, it doesn't change. Make sense? Questions? No questions? All right. Okay, so that was conditional changes. So we covered conditional changes, we covered new columns, we covered accessing elements.
Has this completely changed the our data set?
Yes, it has. So you see, this was the data set. So it has changed your data set. So if you don't want to change your data set, then let me try this again. So df is equals to, so let me show you this very quickly. So let's create a new data frame df2, which is just equal to df, right? And now let me change this one value, right? Let me change 55 for this 55.3 in df2. Let me change this value to 60.2, right? Like the last value. So urban is 55.3. I want to change total to 0 when urban is 65.3, 55.3, right? So what will I do? df2 dot total, and I want the value to change when urban is equals to 55.3, and let me change it to 0. Okay, let's look at df2 now. So this value has changed, and it has changed permanently. Would something have happened to original data frame df? Because we wanted to protect our data frame from not changing from Japanese question, so we did not. So we created a new variable df2, and then we changed in that, right? We changed df2. What will df look like? Will it have changed, or there shouldn't be any change in data frame, right? Because we did the operation on data frame 2. Guesses? Someone take a random guess. Will it change? Will it not change? Let's see. You see, this also changed. So that is what happens when you create a new data frame like this. So what this equal to does is it creates a linked copy. So this is not a new copy. So what we need to understand now is that in Python, so the data frame is stored in the background in a memory, right? and the variable name, so data frame df was the name. So name is sort of an index, right? It is like a hyper. So when you have an indexed PDF, you click on a link and then you go to its chapter. That link is just a connection between the name, the link, and the actual content. Even here, the actual data frame is stored in the memory by whatever internal name Python is using. df is the name we use to link to this data set. And now when we say df2 is equals to df, all it is doing is it is creating another link to the same data frame. It is not creating a copy of the data frame. So you understand, the data frame is the same. All we have done is create a new link to it. So we have two links pointing to the same data frame. So when using df2, you change the data frame. When you will access the same data frame using df, obviously you will get a changed data frame. Does that make sense? Because this is like an important concept now, which is like copying versus like what is this happening. So this has not really created a copy. Let me show you by example something else. So this is copy, right? Now let's change again based on 55.3. Let me change this to -1, right? df3 dot total df is equals to -1. Okay. And now we have df3. So this has changed. Now tell me whether df2 and df would have changed or not. So now I did an assignment in a different way, right? Okay, so Deepak says it shouldn't have changed. Otherwise, what is the point, right? And it does not change. So that is what you need to understand, that when you're using this tables, and then let's actually see if there are any changes in our original table. Right? So our original table looks the same, because why is the original table looking the same? Because how did we create this data frame from the original table? Let's say if I do this, df4 is equals to table 0, right? And now if I do this, df4 urban, rural, total is equals to df4 nfhs 5 dot string dot split, right? Must have equal length keys. No, that's 3 keys. That's not fair. What is happening to them? So sorry. And this is sort of the last bit. Wait, did it work? Why is it giving me an error? Okay. I don't know what that error was, but doesn't seem to have converted anything. Anyhow, my main point here was that when we're changing this, and if we do anything to the data frame, because of the way the data frame was created, it did not convert for some reason. You see, even this has 7 columns now, and it has the same split columns. But basically, when you create a new data frame by just using the equal to sign, anything that you do to this new data frame will also do to the original data frame. So in essence, it sort of makes this, the creation of this new data frame pointless, because when we did this, we wanted to create this new data frame because we did not want to disturb the original data frame. But if you use equal to sign, it will link the two. So it doesn't matter which one do you make the changes on, the changes will happen in both. So you should always use copy so that you get a shallow copy of this list. If you want to be too sure, you can just do a deep copy. Now, if you do something to data frame, you're good. Nothing will change, right? So that's sort of like the copying bit of it, right? Yeah, so that is essentially, so we learned how to access elements, we learned how to conditionally change elements. I have to get back to you on how to like pass an argument to change data types of la column. And yeah, and basically that's it then. So that was like all sorts of things that you should need when you need to clean it. And now you'll have to like work on your own. So I will post today's log file on Piazza, and then I will also post the next thing that you can do. And then I guess like we'll just meet for a final session in which we'll cover everything, or we can have another session, we can talk about it. But yeah, that was it for me. Any questions? Sorry about like all the hiccups today. I don't know. I think I'm still sleepy. Sorry. But questions?
Yes, I have a question. When I
Sorry, I cannot hear you if you're still talking. I don't know.
code, yes,
Yeah,
my
can you
voice is
repeat?
yes, I'm repeating. When I combine all the tables from all the states, then I have a single data frame of all the tables, but I don't have the state's name. I
So
cannot say which table belongs to which state.
yeah,
Is that necessary to include all the states name?
yeah, but you can do something to know which table is from which state, right? Can you not? So now we have these tables 1, 2, 3, right? So let me do this very quickly. I is equals to 0. Oops. Right. So like this, we merged all together, right? Now in this merge, we don't know which comes from where. But what you could have done, this is I believe what you're doing, but what you can also do is this, right? Oh man, sorry. What you can do is first you can create a copy of that table. So you get this in df1. Then you can create a new column, right? Like source is equals to, I don't know. Since we are using index of the table, let's just say this is the source, right? And then df is equals to df1. Sorry, df is equals to df dot append df1 I plus equal to 1. That's it, right? And now if we look at df dot keys, what happened? Oh, my bad. I did not reinitialize that. Okay. Right. So now we have this source column. Cool. And that will tell us which table came from where, right? Because like what is happening? So this is the first table from which I want to copy. And then in that table, I add a column source, which tells me, okay, this table is coming from the first index. And then I append it together. So this helps me identify which table is coming from which table. So like you can do a version of this too. So when you are appending, at that time you're appending, you know which file those tables are coming from. So you know whether it came from Andhra Pradesh, whether it came from Bihar, right? And then you just have to use that information and and store that information in your table somewhere so that you have that information available when you merge everything together, right? Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Any other questions, Japneet?
I haven't tried this, so I do not have any questions right now.
Okay, sure. But so try it out, and I guess like I'll try to post something like a small exercise on something to do with state tables or something like that, because I think like now there is not much which we can discuss now. Now it will depend on like a need to basis. So if you want to clean stuff, like today we were trying to converting data type from like say string to int or float, and then you just look up what the command is and then figure out how to type it out, which I could do like that. So that's essentially it. Like now from here on, like you should just try things out that you want to do with data frames and like try different exercises on your own. And I'll try to post some as well. Okay. All right. If there are no questions, then I guess we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks, Pankaj.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.